Okay. So, okay, cool. Thank you. And I'm actually just playing my music through a speaker tonight because I've been having issues, and I had to clear off all of my data off this computer because I'm getting an updated one through work, and so I had to delete off like OBS, exactly, all my porn. No, like I had to delete off OBS, like the various game things that I have on here. So, yeah, my computer's kind of a mess, and I had to re-download OBS before starting. It looked like it was working earlier, and then for some reason I wasn't getting anything on the mic. So, you haven't missed. Yeah, you haven't missed much so far. Thank you for saying something. We are making a bread pudding right now.
That's right.
Yeah. So all I've done is buttered like 9x13 like dish, and then added in the bread that we were using the other night, that really nice bowl that we had. It's still quite good. It's starting to get a little stale, so this will help just preserve it and make it into another dish, essentially. So I'm gonna add now kind of like a fun mixture of like eggs and sugar and all this stuff. That'll make it more into a sweet instead of a savory. With the meal that we're making tonight, we actually have some rice cooking back here, so we don't really need this bread for it. So this will turn into a nice dessert. So it's just trying to kind of lengthen the product and whatnot. Oh, nice! You're going from Idaho all the way to Savannah. That's even longer than the drive it took us to get out here. How many eggs? Sorry, I forgot the recipe.
It calls for 4.
Okay.
You can make a savory bread pudding, though.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you could add in just everything that we're doing. We're just gonna add in some like sugar and some pecans and stuff like that. But you could add in even meats or herbs and vegetables,
Like
plenty of other things.
Caramelized onions.
Yeah, that'd be good.
The menu that I did for my project for school, they had a half roast chicken served with a bread and butter pickle bread pudding. Which I don't like bread and butter pickles, but
I do.
I like dill pickles. But it sounded interesting. But I found like a rosemary caramelized onion.
Yeah, I like bread and butter pickers.
Peppers?
Pickles. Did I say pickers?
Yes.
No, sorry. Pickles. So I'm just going to whisk up a couple of eggs. So this was 4 eggs. And can you just kind of read off how much of 3 cups? This is going to be 3.
Here's 1. I'm using almond milk.
And it even has some vanilla flavoring to it.
Mm-hmm.
It's sweetened, so it's that much better.
Mm. What kind of flavors does she use in her bread pudding?
Struggling over here. Just use the one. Having the audio off threw me off. I'm flustered now. So that was 3 cups of vanilla almond milk.
Sugar. It says 3/4 cup of sugar. And it just calls for white, so do what you want with that.
Do you have the brown sugar up here?
So the recipe we're using called only for like white granulated sugar. We're going to use a mix of brown and white sugar. Raisins in a sugar glaze. Yeah, that's a pretty traditional recipe. That's actually pretty similar to the one that we're kind of going off of. I like that like icing glaze.
Vanilla cinnamon.
And then the pecans. The recipe calls for raisins or dried fruit. We didn't have any, so we're going to use some pecans instead. And then, like I said, we're using a mix of brown and white sugar. And then we're going to add some frangelico, which is a hazelnut liqueur. We're going off of a recipe in The Joy of Cooking, which is a very just like kind of dictionary of cookbooks, so to speak. It's just got a lot of basic recipes. Is a good just staple to have if you want to have kind of a small library.
And then this just goes on that, right? And then
Yeah, do you want any salt?
maybe a little bit. My hands aren't clean though. Can you?
I just prefer to. Do it right.
I just poured it. I didn't use my hands. And then the bread will start to absorb all of this goodness.
Yeah, we want it to sit for a little while with the custard before we put it in the oven, so that it has time to soak in there.
Yeah.
Around. Do you want to mix it around with it?
I'm just gonna use my hands. So I'm even gonna mix it a little bit. Just make sure the bread gets some of that coating everywhere. Yeah.
I did not see.
There we go. And that's pretty much it. So we'll just let this hang out now. Start to absorb all of that. You can't see her, but Kimbo is in here. Very excited.
Hoping for some goodies.
Yeah. Especially with having the butter in the pan.
Yeah. That's what got her in here.
Alright.
Veggie prep.
Yeah, so we're going to be working with some sardines tonight, which I kind of gave you a sneak preview of the other night. Not sure if you can see them this far away. Now, I'll show them to you when we get closer to actually cooking.
Trash bowls.
Okay. But yeah, we found some really nice fresh sardines, not the ones that are already like brined and then packed into the little cans. These sardines are a good, probably foot, maybe 10 inches.
They're like real fish.
Yeah. And they're real stinky.
They are. And I've never had sardines like this before, so.
Yeah, so this will be a little adventure. So, we're going to be doing a pretty simple kind of cooking method with it. It's going to be cooked in some like vegetable broth and some tomatoes and anise, some green onions, flavors like that, and then just served over the rice that we have. And I want to keep the whole fish intact. I'm not going to pull the heads off or anything. They've been gutted and gilled already. I don't understand our rice cooker. It cooks so much faster all of a sudden.
Do you cook white rice?
Ah. So I'm just slicing these tomatoes in half. Welcome, Lord Pink Eye. Hope you're having a nice evening.
And if tomatoes weren't in season, we could use canned tomatoes.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a problem, but since they are in season,
yeah.
might as well use them fresh and let some of the natural juices from it cook out.
It's definitely better with fresh tomatoes, but
Yeah. And this is just a white onion.
oh, I'm sorry, I was petting you.
I'm doing good, thanks for asking. Yeah, cherry tomatoes with just a touch of salt are very good.
Yes.
I like roasting them with some just garlic and then finishing with some basil. Cherry tomatoes are just good in general and don't take a lot to. You don't need to do much to them.
By themselves, they're good.
Yeah, I mean you can just eat them as is. See, if you do exclamation point menu, it will tell you what we're making. That's gonna be too small. And welcome, Aria K. Thank you for coming by. Oh, you've never had bread pudding?
Ooh.
Bread pudding is awesome.
Yeah, very easy. You just need a few ingredients. It's good for breakfast. It's good for dessert. It's not very good for you. But it tastes really good. Kimbo found something on the floor that she wants. So she's now digging.
So yeah, here is the bread pudding. I can even put it under this other one. So we had this really nice artisanal loaf that we had purchased from a local bakery a few days ago that we've been eating really over the weekend. It's kind of a traditional pinto bean bread. What's up, Thug? Um, so you can even see like this is the top of it was just a really nice thick crust, but very soft on the inside. It was a boule style rollout. And it's still quite good, but it's starting to get a little stale, so we wanted to do something to be able to preserve it. And with this meal that we're making tonight, with the fish, we're going to be having some rice. I've got some rice in a rice cooker back here. So we don't really need the bread for the meal. So to kind of maximize it, we're making a sweetbread pudding. So we've got, kind of a custardy mix of eggs and cinnamon and vanilla and milk, some pecans, and so this will just kind of turn into a really nice dessert. So we put the bread in, it was a buttered pan, and then made that custard mix, poured it on top, kind of mixed it together just with our hands, and then we're letting it kind of absorb all of that nice custard into the bread before we put it in the oven.
Got a few more things to chop up for the fish and stuff. We've got our cherry tomatoes and our onion already ready to go.
But you could really use any kind of bread. Something that has a nice crust to it is probably preferred because it's going to give you that nice mix of texture where it's soft on the inside and crunchy on the outside. But really, any bread will work. You can cut it down into like bite-sized pieces.
Or even rip it if you don't want to cut it.
Yeah, you can, to make it more rustic, you could absolutely just rip it apart and go to town.
We made it with the dinner rolls that one time we couldn't find a good one before.
Yeah, there were some dinner rolls that we've used in our past to make I think that one was more of like a...
It was like a
French toast style, but I mean it was still, in essence, a bread pudding. Banana bread? I mean, yeah, I wouldn't add too many other flavors to it, but you could use a banana bread for it and then just make that custard mix. Yeah. The banana bread will be a little bit soft naturally because it's already got a lot of the same stuff in it, but you could absolutely do that. Yeah, I highly recommend bread pudding. It's really easy to make and it's really good.
It's great. We've made it before for the holidays. Like, you can do this whole process the night before and then cover it tightly with foil. And then if you put it in the oven, Thanksgiving morning or something like that, you just have something ready or to go. It makes it easy.
Sorry, dog's barking. Hey.
Okay.
She's kind of fired up today. She got a new toy, so. So this is just some Okay, sorry about that. We had a solicitor.
Despite having enough solicitations.
Yeah. Hopefully she wasn't too loud. I tried to turn on the mic, but I think she got some good barks in there before I was able to. Just that nice political canvassing type of year. So I'm just going to use some of these fronds for just at the end when we're cooking.
I don't know, like, have you tried different techniques to try to get them to stop? We've tried so many different things with her, and...
Yeah, she just gets super fired up whenever... It's like, she saw him coming, which was the initial barking, and then when the doorbell rang, that's when all hell breaks loose.
Put a little one for that?
This is fine. We've got the holes for it. Exactly, sandwich. And then last up, we've got some parsley.
Do you want any olives or capers?
Yes, I want olives, please. And probably some capers, too. So sardines are kind of a naturally salty fish, and especially when they're brined the way that they typically are when you get them in the little package. So they tend to pair really well with additional salty flavors. So we're going to be using some capers and some olives in it, but then we're going to have some of that acid from the tomatoes, and then we're also going to use a lemon to help cut some of that, so it'll have a nice balance where it's both got a little sourness to it, but then some saltiness as well. And then the rice, being such a strong starch, is going to absorb a lot of that, so it'll all just kind of come together nicely.
The fish has some fat too, and we'll have some oil, you know, the olive oil and stuff. So it all comes together. Garlic.
Yeah, this will be a fun preparation. Mrs. Biscotti was saying she's never had this kind of sardine before. I'm a big fan of sardines, pretty much in any preparation. Just being an Italian kid, I was exposed to them pretty young. So
I don't think I've had sardines, period.
I've never had like sardine pizza or like sardines in a Caesar salad or...
I've had anchovies.
Yeah, but that's not
I
the
don't think
same.
I've ever had sardines, like...
I mean, they are similar to an anchovy, but it's not.
Yeah. But now that we're eating only fish, as far as the animals go, I need to, like, step up my game.
Yes. Yeah, it's good to experiment.
Yeah.
I haven't cooked with them in a long time, so this will be kind of interesting for me as well. But essentially, we're almost going to make like a little stew. And yes, I'm just using standard white rice tonight. You could really use any kind of rice with this. You could use like a wild rice. Just a little bit.
Or another grain, too.
Yeah, you could use bulgur. You could use a lot of different products.
Barley. We talked about using polenta.
Yeah, we were discussing polenta, but I wanted a rice because it'll absorb a lot of these other flavors better than a polenta will. Plus, polenta has a bit of a stronger flavor on its own compared to just a nice plain white jasmine rice.
Well, we just had that on hand. We had polenta too, but that's part of what we try to do is just kind of using what we've got in our pantry, so we're not always buying new stuff. But is it Chipino doesn't come with rice? What is it that gumbo? I guess always comes with rice. But what is it with the seafood?
Now that you said Chipino, that's what I'm thinking. That's not it.
Because everything else I'm thinking of is like already mixed other than gumbo. But gumbo...
Jambalaya.
Yeah, but jambalaya is already mixed too.
Yeah.
Chipino doesn't have rice.
No. It's just like a tomato broth.
Mm-hmm.
Bread. Jasmine brown rice, yeah.
Yeah.
We actually do tend to eat more brown rice than white rice, but this is just what we had on hand, so that's what's gonna get used. You don't have to cut your capers. I like to give them just a quick pass through. Helps break them up a little bit, make them even a little bit smaller, and release some of their brine.
I was always really picky with rice also, but I think that the quality of it has improved quite a bit as far as what you can get, and the flavor of it has thus improved as well. White rice was always just really like cardboardy and just didn't have much flavor or texture, but I think it's improved quite a bit. But I still prefer brown.
So I'm gonna give this bread pudding one more turn, and then go ahead and get it into the oven. You could let this sit for even longer. It would actually be better, but this meal's not gonna take too long to get together. So I just, in understanding the time, I'd rather just get it in and cooking. Plus, I can already feel it has absorbed quite a bit already.
Well, mixing it like this too will help it be even. If we just let it sit, then the bottom would be really soggy and the top would be crunchy.
Pretty dry.
Yeah.
Just try and get it evenly distributed. And then this is going to go into a 350-degree oven.
At the same time.
Yeah.
So I've just been setting all the ingredients he's been prepping over next to our stove top. We're going to move over there to get cooking.
Yeah, so I'm going to swing everything over to the other side of the kitchen.
You done with that?
Yeah.
Did you chop any garlic?
No. Shit.
You can do that while still cooking.
Yeah. Let's move this over here. And yeah, I've seen a couple of new faces in here. If you are new to the channel and you're enjoying the content, really appreciate giving us a follow. We do stream probably twice a week, sometimes 3 times a week. Just kind of depends what our eating schedule is and when we're buying our ingredients. But yeah, we're gonna go ahead and get started with this fish here. I'm gonna give it just 1 minute. Mrs. Biscotti is.
What do you need?
No, I need to get to the sink, but it's fine.
Oh,
Go ahead and
sorry,
finish. No, you're good.
I'm just trying to
No, I know.
fish it and then getting it.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Where's that? There's another bowl right here. Empty.
Oh, it's it. I put it in the big bowl. I try to help.
It's okay. It's better than was it Saturday?
Yeah, Saturday I was just getting in the way all over the place, but our roles were a little reversed. So he's putting the fish in a separate bowl so we can show you finally what it looks like. They've already been scaled and gutted and gilled, so they're nice and clean for us. We're going to cook them whole, so they still have their heads and their eyes and their tails and everything, so if anybody's squeamish about that, just beware. But they're not too big. They're probably only about 10 inches long or so. But it is nice that they're nice and scaled for us because that's a messy job. And you get a lot of extra flavor with all that. We could keep the heads and the tails and stuff and make fish stock if we wanted.
God, we likes it.
We are about to unveil Smelly Fishy.
Yeah, so these are our sardines. They are quite large. The head's on. They've been gutted, gilled, and scaled. It's like the one time you can smell. It's not always the case. So, gonna get a pan nice and hot. Oh yeah, you like these socks? We got some robots on tonight. Just gonna use some simple canola oil for this. I don't want to use anything that has too much flavor because we're going to be cooking with all of our really nice ingredients already. We're just going to go ahead and drop the fish right on in.
I love watching it.
Now, something to be mindful of when working with sardines like this is they do still have all their little bones in them. So we'll have to be careful when we go to eat them, just kind of pulling the flesh off. Okay. Not freaked out too much?
No, I'm just curious.
Yes. Fishy. And some of the skin's going to come off, that's totally fine. If anything, some people actually prefer that. We'll pop it a little bit, so.
You could put an oven mitt on.
Okay. Alright, so we're going to start adding in our flavors right on top. So I went on in with the onions, the capers, the olives, and the tomatoes so far. I'm not going to add in the green onions or the anise yet. I'm going to... Oh yeah, it's a non-stick pan. So this is actually a pan called a Le Creuset. So it's a cast iron that's coated in enamel. So, right?
Yeah. There's other brands that make the same type of pan. The advantage of it is that the cast iron distributes heat really evenly, and the enamel is essentially non-stick. Le Creuset is like top of the line as far as the brands go. You can find them on Amazon. There's also outlet stores and stuff to try to save on the cost. Even like TJ Maxx and Home Goods and stuff sells them. But that's been one of the benefits of all the celebrity chef craze, actually, is that a lot of them make their own brand of this style of pan. I haven't tried any of them, so I don't know as far as quality goes how good they are, but we use this pan all the time.
So now I'm just going to start kind of breaking up the fish underneath. And letting it all kind of cook together. We're essentially going to turn this into almost like a stew. And again, we'll just serve this right on top of the rice.
You want any brown spices?
I don't think we can eat it with like the olives and
Yeah.
the capers and stuff. I think we're good. It's gonna have a lot of flavor. Sardines, you don't like sardines? I like sardines. But I understand, they're definitely not for everybody. You can even see some of the skeletons are falling off, which is a good thing. Huh? They're in there. It's like some of the best part. I'm going to go ahead and start adding some of the broth. It's okay if you can't. So we're just adding in some vegetable broth. And that'll allow everything to start breaking down and turning into kind of like a stew. They do taste a little different. Honestly, the broths are probably a little more diluted than the cubes. The cubes tend to be like a proper stock, and the stock is going to be a lot more concentrated. But typically what you would do with those cubes is you would take the cube and dilute it in some water and then use that to kind of make your base. So they kind of balance out, but I do prefer a stock to a broth. Stock tends to have more flavor to it, and is cooked for longer, whereas a broth is thinner and just kind of cooked quickly and a little bit more watery.
The bouillon cubes are nice if you're short on space or.
Yeah. It's our friend from Finland, and he thinks that they only have the cubes there,
Yeah.
which is quite possibly the
Yeah,
case.
with the shipping and stuff. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, it should have the ratio of like how much water per cube equates. So I guess liters, milliliters.
Yeah. Yes. Us Americans and our dumb.
Yeah, ounces. I know. That was when I read an article that like Americans are finally learning the metric system because of Pokemon Go. Because it's in kilometers.
That's amazing.
And people are angry about it, but like the rest of the world obviously goes off kilometers and not miles.
So now I'm adding the juice of an onion, or of a lemon. So this acidity will help cut some of that saltiness that we've been incorporating and is natural to the fish. Do you have any of your leftovers? This is too gross for you. Kimber will have some with me. Juice of the onion, I know, right? Don't always use my words the best. So, and really, we're just going to let this kind of cook down now. Let all those flavors come together. And again, this is why I like using the whole fish, is we're getting some of those flavors in from the bones. It makes it kind of a pain in the ass to eat later, but the flavor is really worth it. Already it doesn't smell the same. Mrs. Biscotti is giving me looks of disapproval. I don't know if she's going to partake in this meal with me or not. I'm going to go ahead and add some of our sambal, give it some spice. Yeah, there you go. See, so it is probably a bit of a packing issue and then a shipping issue. Yeah, and then it's cheaper for you and you don't have to carry stuff as much. You just have little pieces you can bring around, whether it's your flavoring for sodas or... Yes, it probably would be better to put the fish bones in a cloth, but I wanted to get a sear on some of the meat with the whole fish, so I went ahead and seared the fish first and then started adding in all my other flavors. So what I will probably do before actually serving this is go through and pull out as many of the bones as I can find, and then just be careful as we eat it. But most of them stay on the skeleton, so being able to just like take this whole piece, that's capturing like 80% of those bones. But I'm excited for this meal. Mrs. Biscotti, again, is just hanging out on the side, staring at it with a weird face. But yeah, it would not be, especially if you were going to do this more of like a soup, you could absolutely put everything into like a cheesecloth and then put that in there. Then remove that cheesecloth, you capture all the bones, peel off the meat, and then add the meat back into your soup at the end. That could be another way that you could prepare it. But I wanted some of that sear and direct heat on the fish first. So that was my my reason for preparing it this way. You'll eat the bread pudding, right?
Yeah.
But how are you, Holiday to Hospital? How's your day going? Snuck in here kind of late. And same with our Finnish friend. I know it's probably, the middle of the night or early in the morning over there. Yes, my excuse to be lazy. Hot and humid? Yeah, it's warm here, but it's better than where we used to live, so I'll take it. Oh yeah, it's 4:34 a.m. You're nuts. The weather's not too bad. I mean, it is warm. It's been in the like high 80s, low 90s pretty consistently. But the humidity here isn't too bad. We're up in the mountains, so it's pretty clean, crisp air. But we're both already looking forward to the fall to get some cooler weather input and just see the season change. You know, we came from California where it was always the same year round, just varying degrees of heat. But you had 4 bees come inside from your window? Yeah, probably not a good idea to open your window then. Yeah, I don't like bees. I've been doing a lot of gardening lately. We have a pretty big backyard and it's overgrown, so I've been trimming it back, and there's a lot of bees back there. I'm trying to make friends with them, but they're pretty angry.
It's not like the Seinfeld
What's that?
movie. The Bees movie.
I know that.
He made a movie, The Bees. Or the Bee movie, wasn't it?
Maybe. Hey, I honestly don't remember that.
He was the voice.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yes. I was thinking of like something in Seinfeld.
No.
Like, and that's, I was like,
No, this was...
yes, Jerry Seinfeld did like voice acting.
Yeah. And
So I'm just going through and removing some of the skeletons and some of the extra bones that I'm seeing. But it's nice, you can see the meat's really starting to break down now. And honestly, a lot of the smaller bones even are quite edible. It is similar to an anchovy where you eat the smaller bones. Hey, Drunkers. Yeah, another fish preparation. This was with our sardines that we got from the fish market the other day. So I just kind of seared them off and then added a bunch of vegetables. I added tomatoes, some anise, or fennel, but anise, and then some onion, tomatoes, and green onion, and then some vegetable broth. What's that? Olives and capers. So, we're not vegetarian, we're pescatarian, so we still eat fish. So like fish and eggs and tofu, those are our primary sources of protein. But we don't eat like chicken, pork, beef, lamb, goat, those meats. So, yeah.
land animal.
What's that?
Land animal.
Yeah, land animals we don't partake in. And honestly, since switching to this diet for myself, yeah, it's kind of like a sardine stew. So I'm going to serve this over a bed of rice. And then we've also got some bread pudding in the oven right now for our dessert. So, yeah, kind of interesting little meal that came together. So I keep looking at Mrs. Biscotti. I'm not sure if she's actually going to partake in this one or not. It's might be a little much for her because I cooked the fish with the heads on, and at one point she asked me where the eyes were, and they're in here. So that's some of the best part of the fish, but it does gross out some people. So, but I wanted to show like a whole fish preparation of something because most of the time we're just working with fillets when we do cook fish. You know, it's a nice fillet of salmon and it's already been butchered and everything. So this is a much more rustic preparation of it, where we're using the whole fish. The only parts we didn't use is it was gutted, so getting rid of all the innards. They take out the gills because those aren't really edible either, and then the scales. So they're ready to go. There are still quite a few bones, but I cooked these with it knowing that most of it would come off in a nice clean piece like this. So this is capturing the majority of our bones. But I wanted some of that flavor in the soup, or the stew. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting preparation. I kind of made it up off the top of my head as I was trying to think of flavors that would work well together. I'm a big fan of anchovies and sardines. I really like the salty fishes, so this was just something. Again, we were at a fish market and I saw them and I got excited, so I bought them and then figure out the rest. Yeah, the skin on this is really not chewy at all. It's super thin. It's not like a fattier fish like a salmon or a trout that has a much thicker skin to it. They're small fish. I mean, they were still pretty big. They were a good 10 inches or so from... But yeah, Asian-style curry with fish is amazing. I completely agree with that. Yeah, I like fish skin if it's not soggy. So a lot of times when we make like a salmon or something like that, I always try and crisp off the skin early so that way it'll hold up and then almost makes like a little potato chip style. And I really like that. Hey, creative, what's going on? And blank space blank, thank you for coming by. Appreciate you hanging out, asking questions. Oh, sorry, dog is hyper tonight. We've already had a solicitor come by, and she got a new toy today. Yeah, so, yeah, while we do not eat meat.
He's getting her new toy.
And again, I understand fish is a meat, but I'm talking about like land animals. We got Kimbo a little piggy today that even oinks, and she is all about it. So she's fired up and barking at this, and I'm gonna take it. She like swats at it to make it moo, or oink,
Oink.
whatever. I have cows on the brain now.
Cow says oink.
Yes, exactly. Fish and chips. Yes, that is actually something that we make a lot of fish on this stream because my wife and I are pescatarian. So fish is our kind of primary protein that we work with. We do some egg dishes and some tofu dishes as well, but I really like fish, so we cook a lot of it on this stream. And we do a lot of different side dishes with it as well, including various forms of potatoes. So fish and chips in various fashions is something you'll see on here quite a bit. So feel free to come back anytime, and you'll likely see some sort of preparation of the fish and chips. Yeah, we do actually. That's something I've been thinking about because I eat a lot of fish and chips when I go to restaurants. So that would be something good to prepare, like a traditional fish and chips with the like newspaper and everything. So that'd be a fun stream.
We could do either that berry thing I said you today, or the coffee pudding.
Oh yeah, we could do a whole like English spread. So we could do we just found a good recipe for a sticky toffee pudding, so we could make that as well. So I eat shrimp, scallops, and all the different shellfish of the land. Mrs. Biscotti is allergic to iodine, so that kind of rules out a lot of that for her, unfortunately. Um,
Well, we should start cooking it anyway.
yeah, but I mean, yeah. That's what, like, if you're not gonna eat this, then that gives me more freedom to start cooking things that I can eat that you're not gonna eat. Um, but yeah. Uh, but yeah, I mean, scallops are arguably my favorite food, so I really enjoy. Like whenever we go to a really nice restaurant, that tends to be something that I get. Sea urchin, I'm personally not the biggest fan of sea urchin, more of a texture thing than anything. Hey, what's up, Smoke? Um, it's not. I'm not opposed to it, but it's not something I seek out. And with the price point that it carries, it just doesn't make a lot of sense for me to go after it. Yeah, diver scallops, I go in on. But yeah, it does suck that she's allergic. She's actually been wanting to kind of experiment to potentially try introducing it back into her diet again. So I think it would be something. Iodine. Okay, so iodine is what is
It's
it
an
like?
element, I think, or I don't know, it's a chemical.
Yeah, it's a chemical or an element. It's naturally found. It's naturally found in a lot of shellfish. They also use it in if you've ever had. Hopefully you haven't, but if you've ever had things like an MRI or a CT scan, they often do what's called a dyed injection, so that they basically inject dye into you, so they can see organs and shit as the dye moves through your body. That's often an iodine base. It's often used in like kind of as a natural antiseptic. So like if you get a cut, a lot of times people will say put iodine on it. But it's basically this dark fluid, and again, it's found naturally in a lot of shellfish, things like lobsters and shrimp, and all the crustaceans. So Mrs. Biscotti doesn't consume that. Yeah, see, I will say I do like raw oysters a lot. That is something that I will seek out and I will pay a little extra money for. Not on a regular basis, but on like a special occasion or if I'm out at a really nice restaurant. I definitely like oysters much better than sea urchin. Um, I have one of my best friends is like a huge sea urchin fanatic, and part of me thinks that he just likes it because he's supposed to like it as a like, you know, he's one of those guys that if you tell him a movie is really good, he says it's good too, no matter what he thinks. So I think with the sea urchin thing, I really question if he likes it that much or if he's just saying it because he thinks he's a foodie. And
Like, I think that's part of it too, is it became really popular and like there were a lot of places who had it that didn't have good quality
yeah,
sea urchin. And I mean, I've never had it, so I can't really speak necessarily. Like, you can see it based on how it looks. You can see what the quality is.
yeah, and how it smells. I mean,
Yeah.
unlike the sardines that have a very fishy smell to them, a lot of shellfish you do not want to smell, especially sea urchin. You do not want to smell like fish. You want it to smell like the ocean. So that's an easy way to tell if it's fresh. But yeah, it's something that, they carry on hand, and then if it doesn't get used right away, it doesn't keep as well, so then they end up extending the shelf life of it, and it ends up not being as good and as fresh. So here's a quick preview of our bread pudding. So it really is starting to come together. That custard is cooking through. It's going to get a nice crust on the top of it. And again, we've got some pecans in there to give it a little extra crunch as well. Just give it a rotation. Vegemite is good.
Oh man. Have you had Vegemite?
I actually have not, but
I've had Vegemite.
Mrs. Biscotti has had Vegemite.
I had a Vegemite sandwich with a piece of American cheese on white bread.
Is that like a very Australian preparation of it, or?
I don't
really know much about it other than Australians love it.
It was like an Aussie American that gave it to me. So I don't know if it's traditional Aussie or if it's.
Start the rumor. Anthony Bourdain loves Vegemite. Yeah, Uzbeki, I would suggest that if you maybe go visit somewhere that's closer to the ocean, if you go on an adventure at some point, um, I would recommend trying some of those various shellfish ingredients. I'm a huge fan. Like I said, scallops are probably my go-to off of the shellfish, but I like most of what they call the bipods and cephalopods, where it's the shell that opens. So mussels, oysters, clams, all of those are kind of where I gravitate to. There's the crustacean side of it, so you've got your crabs and your shrimp and lobster, all very good as well. I'm a big fan of crab from that group, but I'll eat any of that. And then there's all the different mollusks and things like that as well. But I'm a believer in if you go somewhere, trying that local cuisine and experiencing some new flavors for yourself, because you never know what you might end up really liking and could potentially become your favorite food. So I'm going to go ahead and add in our parsley, so this will give some nice color to the dish without, and I don't want to cook this down too much. And then same with the tops of our fennel. It'll give some nice anise flavor without with like a different texture.
Pretty too.
Yeah, it's just nice you could use that purely as a garnish. Soak it in some cold water that'll allow it to bloom a little bit, and it'll really get a nice bright green, and you could just lay that right on top. This is, again, more of a rustic preparation. It's just for us to eat here, so I'm not going to go overly fancy with it. Yeah, you can see like a lot of our liquid now has kind of been absorbed into the dish and cooked down. So I'm excited to eat this. I'm not sure if Mrs. Biscotti is or not, but I think this looks pretty good. I think it smells good. It has gone from that like strong fish smell to more of just a salty, briny smell to me. I don't know if you...
I smell the bread pudding.
Oh, Mrs. Biscotti smells the bread pudding. Am I going to toss in some pasta? No, you could absolutely do pasta with this. You could serve this on a nice piece of bread, like within a roll. We're going to do it with some jasmine rice. So to kind of keep with that stew mentality, I'll probably just serve a little bit of rice underneath it, and then a big dollop of this right on top of it, and then just kind of mix it all together, almost like a curry. So that way we get that carb starchiness absorbing those last little bits of the liquid in here and combining all those flavors. Yeah, our rice is already done. We just cooked it in the rice cooker, nothing too fancy. You could stew the rice with this. You would have to kind of add the rice early on. But yeah. Oh no, 2 hours and they start working on your balcony. I hope you were able to get some sleep without the bees and whatnot. But oh. So yeah, and then this is our bread pudding. So you can see the custard has kind of been... I'll turn off the heat on this now. This is done cooking. I'm not sure if you can see this up close. I'll come to this camera. I know it has a better auto zoom or autofocus. The custard has really been absorbed into this, and it's kind of got a nice base to it. So this will be our dessert. You would just, it's a nice bread pudding. You could serve it with some whipped cream if you want, some fresh fruit, all sorts of different things to help kind of spruce it up. But I kind of like it just as it is, maybe a little maple syrup or something on it. But I'm just going to let it hang out in the oven to stay warm. But yeah, that's pretty much it. A pretty fast stream. Again, cooking fish is a quick and easy preparation. But let's see. Blah, blah, blah. If you have some time, try this. Some earbuds comboed with construction earmuffs, then play soft music while sleeping. That's not a bad idea. Yeah, that would definitely work for a kid crying on a long flight. But thank you, everybody, for hanging out, providing a fun atmosphere in chat. Sorry it wasn't a longer stream, but this was just kind of a quick thrown together meal. And yeah, no, we don't do social eating. It is new. Probably, I don't think you've been here since they instituted that, but it's not something we do. We're both kind of lazy, and Mrs. Biscotti isn't going to get all dressed up and put on makeup just to eat her dinner in front of a camera, and I'm a short, bald man, so y'all don't want to see me eat anyway. But thanks again for hanging out. I hope you guys learned some stuff about sardines and fish, and maybe inspired something different. It seemed like most of you were kind of perplexed by this stew preparation, but yeah, I hope everyone has a great rest of their evening or morning. For Uzbeki, I hope you get some sleep. But yeah, right? I need both hair and makeup, so thanks for hanging out, Arya K. And again, if you are new to the stream and you enjoyed this content, we stream usually 2, maybe 3 times a week. Feel free to hit that follow button so you know when we're streaming again, and follow us on Twitter or whatever. But yeah, have a great rest of your evening. Thanks again. Love you all, and we'll see you soon.